Welcome, everyone. Why don't we just sit still for about 2 minutes, wait for the other students to join, and then I will turn the podium over to Venerable De Hong. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us from all the multiple platforms, Insight Timer, YouTube, Facebook, and Zoom. Did I leave anything out? So quickly, I'm going to turn it over to Venerable De Hong. He's going to start with a Dharma talk, and then it's a mindfulness meditation, and with a Q&A. And if there's any time left, I like to do just a mini interview. It's all yours.
Thank you, Danny. Good afternoon, greetings to everyone. Thanks for joining us. So to begin, give me 1 second. Before I talk about the five hindrances, I'd like to introduce you guys to an article that was published on August 14. It's about how to have a happier and calmer life, literally healthier. It's about, this is kind of new, psychological immune system. So how can you maintain that? And I have a link at the bottom of the slide that you guys can download and read. But 4 things that help our brains and our body to have this, to build up this psychological immune system. The first thing is move from negative to neutral. The second one is access the present moment, basically being mindful or having a sense of self-awareness. The third one is find your meaning. The fourth factor is practice acceptance. This is a very helpful article. I suggest that you guys read it because in the interest of time, I think it's better that you guys read it than me trying to read it to you. Okay. So last month we talked about the differences between mindfulness and concentration and what concentration is in terms of the meditation practice. Tonight we will talk about the five hindrances. In Bhante Gunaratana's book, The Mindfulness in Planning List, he also discusses the five hindrances. But for the purposes of developing concentration and deepening your practice, as well as your spirituality, I'm using Shayla Catherine's book, which is Wisdom Deep and Wide, because she is a very, very experienced meditator. She traveled to Burma or Myanmar and spent a few years there developing jhana or deep state of concentration. I also include a link by Ajahn Brahm, who also talks about the five hindrances. And I think that it is important for you guys, for all of us, not just, whoever that, everyone that is interested in meditation, to deepen your practice, because the way of life in modern society is very, very stressful. The pace is way too fast, and we don't know how to slow down. Back in 2006 or before 2006, I tried I tried to slow down, but I couldn't. I tried to read about Buddhism and meditation, but I did not practice. I did not know how. So for everyone, if you are married, or if you have a partner, if you are working, and also if you have kids, try to find time to take care of your mental and physical health. This is highly important. Otherwise, you might just drop out of society and become a monastic like me. Okay, it's a good thing, So anyway, in chapter one, Shaila Catherine, she gave instructions on how to really deepen your concentration. Basically, in order to help us to stay focused when we meditate, just so that our mind doesn't wander, or it does not, you know, um, become restless, is to direct your focus, your awareness, your attention to the breath at your nostrils as you breathe in and out, and just pay attention to the sensations, and ignore everything else. Even if your mind wanders, bring it back to the breath. If thoughts come up, no matter how powerful your thoughts are, ignore them. Stay with the breath, especially paying attention to the sensations at your nostrils as air comes in and out. And that's the best way, but it's not as easy. And I will give an example. I'll give you guys some tips on how to deal with that. She also gave an example of how, think of, as a meditator, think of someone, a gatekeeper at the gate, where he is watching people coming in and out, and you just let people coming in and out. You don't just follow them. Now, if you cannot focus on the breath because your mind is restless or wandering around, then count your breath. For each breath in and out, you count one. She recommended from 1 to 8, but I say, do it from 1 to 5 for each breath, and then reverse count from 5 back to 1. This is how you ground your awareness in the breath. And once you get to it, drop the counting. Once you're able to stay without your mind wandering, then drop the counting, period. Now, if counting doesn't work, then you can repeat a mantra, whatever it is that works for you. Let's say something like, may I be healthy, may I be calm, may I be peaceful. Use it. I think I introduced Tina Turner to you guys in the previous sessions. She used the phrase Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. She did that for hours, and it worked for her. So that was her mantra. But but her practice is called chanting. But she did it quietly, mentally. The Buddha said, whatever an enemy might do to an enemy, or hater to those who hates, a wrongly directed mind can do even greater harm than that. And what did he mean by that? Meaning that, let's say, if your mind is restless, or if your mind ruminates over something, and then if you don't know how to let go, it can consume you. Or if you experience grief, and just be mindful of how you feel and how to express your emotions instead of suppressing them, or being consumed by the hurt, the grief that you are going through. It's a sense, it's a sense of self-awareness as well. Now, the five hindrances are sensual pleasure, aversion and ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, and the last one is doubt. I hope to finish the lecture tonight. I will go quickly and I will only discuss what I think that is important. If you need the slides, I think Danny already upload on the web, on the way that, or if you need to have access to it, please feel free to contact him. I type most of the notes there, but I'm not going to repeat everything because it's a lot. Now, she recommend that when there is a hindrance, notice it, or when there is none, notice it, and or when it's arising, just be aware of it, and know of the way how to abandon it, and also the way that you will not allow it to come up. This is how you deal with hindrance. Let's say if you were sleepy, just know that you are sleepy, and then do activities that keeps you stay awake as you meditate. This is so. In order for anyone to develop jhana or deep states of concentration, it is important to know all the hindrances, and however, do not when you notice one and let it go. Do not try to waste time on figuring out why this comes up. Is not helpful. All you have to know is any unwholesome thoughts or any unwholesome state of mind that comes up, abandon it. And any wholesome thought that comes up, you are aware of it and try to maintain it, such as loving kindness, mindfulness, concentration, patience, compassion. These are the ones that you want to cultivate. And the other thing, to deal with the five hindrances is to maintain your continuity of awareness, meaning that always come back to the breath in every activity that you do, just so that you can be mindful, you can be aware, can be present in the little thing that you do. So these five hindrances is not that it comes up when we meditate. It's just in your daily life, like what kind of sensual desire do you have, or what are your anger, your feeling tired, or your mind being restless, or that you have doubt. When you go through any of that, when you meditate, it will come up. That's the point. So she used that for sensual desire. She used the analogy of our consciousness as having colored dyes, in the water, and that you cannot see things clearly, meaning that you cannot, from whatever that comes up in your mind, you cannot see it clearly. You cannot see things the way they are, and the thing because of the way that we are humans, and if we are not mindful, we will have an attachment and crave for it. And the thing is, when this one is going away, the next one will come up if we are not aware. And that is the thing. And you just have to be mindful of whatever sensual desire that you have. Let's say you enjoy great food, you love to listen to music all the time, you love to see beautiful things. There's nothing wrong with that, but you don't want to be attached to any of that or crave for them. Now, when you are able to develop jhana or deep states of concentration, then any of the craving will not have power over you. the thing to be mindful of is that our mind can be very lustful. It cannot see things simply as they are. We tend to project our perception, our desire onto things that we come into contact with, or with the people that we meet. And here the Buddha said, when someone eating food and experience the taste, however, try not to have any greed or any craving for that taste. If you let's say if you like cheesecake like me, just as you eat it, it's good, enjoy it right there. But when you're done, just don't keep thinking about it. Oh, I wish that I had more. Or even as you are eating, stop thinking about, oh, I'm gonna have this again, or when I'm gonna have it next week, this and that. And this is coming from sensual desire. And here the Buddha said there are two categories of desire that we need to be mindful of. The first one is the coarse sensory, which is supposed to be fear and abandon. The other one is the refined meditative pleasure, which is to be cultivated and welcome. Meaning the calmness, the tranquility, the peace that you feel when you meditate without distraction, without the mind wandering, that is something that you want to cultivate. The second hindrance is aversion and ill will, and she compares that to like water being boiled on the fire, and that when water is boiled, you cannot see a clear reflection. The same thing when we feel angry, when we feel hopeless, when we feel even hatred, resentment, these are unpleasant feelings. They will affect our state of mind, and we cannot think clearly. And the one thing to be mindful of is that aversion or even anger is that they cannot be replaced by external conditions. Let's say, you want to get out, you want to go to a movie, or you want to travel. But the thing is, as long as you have aversion and ill will, no matter what you do, it's there because you didn't get rid of it. And doing external things, doing activities, will not get rid of your aversion because you're not dealing with it. One thing that she suggests is that to feel when our mind is obsessed with ill will or aversion, then we need to feel the separation that aversion perpetuates. And we need to recognize that the suffering, the stress that aversion creates. And the third thing is to become mindful of aversion or anger. And one practice that counters aversion and ill will is definitely loving kindness. And I would also add compassion. Both of these practices, when you do it diligently and properly, will eliminate any form of anger. The third hindrance is sloth and torpor. It's compared to water with, slimy moss and water plants. It creates this murky mental state. And it obscures our mind, it obscures our consciousness. When you feel sluggish, either in your mind or in the body, you're not energized. But sleeping does not necessarily help. So when you're not motivated or when you feel lazy to meditate, just be aware of that, just so that you can motivate yourself or you can do something to counter this hindrance. And that's why she said sleep is not the cure. You want to be aware of this sluggish or that you're not motivated, that you don't feel like doing it, drop all of that let's say if you feel sleepy when you meditate, stand up, or go wash your face and come back, or do some walking meditation, something some activity that you can do to counter this hindrance. The fourth hindrance is restlessness and worry. This is also an issue with meditators. It's actually an issue with everyone. It's just people who don't meditate, they're not aware of it. And here is compared to water being shaken by the wind. And for us meditators, our minds are restless. It goes from one place to another. And I can relate to this is that, let's say, I volunteer in the prison. If I were to do something illegal, definitely my mind will be restless, and I will be constantly worried about it. Or for anyone who is doing something illegal, your mind will be restless, and your mind is constantly obsessed with worry, and that's with everyone who um, who does things that they're not supposed to do. One thing to be aware of is to, of course, to let it go. But for us, try not to do not do things that, let's say, violates the law or that breaks the law or our code of ethics. The other thing that can help that to with restlessness is to think about here she said, watching a football game or any sports game with the sound muted. The same thing with our mind. Our mind will start coming up with thoughts, or the chattering mind that spilling out stories. And most of these stories are not true. And all you have to do is abandon them, mute them. So the other thing that you also want to be mindful is the planning, right? And again, she said planning is a joke because for all of us, we all have plans, whether in your personal life or professional. But you want to be aware of that how that can affect your meditation practice. And here she said, you don't have to go into a retreat center to meditate. Of course, that will help improve your practice. And all you have to do is turn your mind away from habitual imaginings. That will clear or declutter your mind just so that you can attain some state of concentration. Again, the Buddha warned us that when we do not understand our thoughts, allow our minds to run back and forth, then we are going to have problems. So what we need to do is enjoy a chance to quiet the mind, stop racing between stories from the past or the future, and be at ease with where you are and discover the deep rest of concentration. The last one is doubt. Doubt is also an issue for meditator. It's like water being stirred up, muddy, and set in a darkened room, and that again we cannot see our reflection clearly. And doubt is not about intelligent inquiry. We doubt ourselves. We doubt our teacher. We doubt the teaching. And when we have this kind of thoughts, it's going to cause problem for us to be able to stay focused. Here she said, never abandon careful attention. What does that mean? Come back to the breath. Stay with the breath in everything that you do. When you first wake up in the morning, just do a body scan. Be aware of what's going on. when you brush your teeth, be aware of the toothbrush rubbing against your gums and your teeth. And as we get older, I'm old, I have to use the soft brush. I cannot use the regular brush. And for the most part, I'm trying to be mindful of how the brush rub against my gums. And be vigilant, meaning that when you are with the breath, you are being mindful, you are being aware. Now, with the five hindrances, I would say that for people who suffer from trauma, whether from childhood or as an adult, it will, the degree and the level of intensity of these hindrances, is much greater. So, and according to the CDC, Center for Disease Control, 60% of Americans experience at least one form of adverse childhood experience. So whatever your childhood was, or even now as an adult, whatever trauma that you may experience, it can interfere with your practice. And trauma from childhood or as an adult can lead to substance abuse. If you guys are interested in my sharing about trauma, let me know. Next month, I can share some tips and some discussion on trauma, just because I suffer all kinds of trauma as a kid. And also, as I grew up, I can do that. But you guys can let Danny know, send him a note or send him an email, just so that I can prepare, okay? So, and as you meditate, just be aware of what we call your window of tolerance, especially when you suffer from trauma in the past or currently. The window of tolerance means that that's where you're almost like comfort zone, because when something comes up during your meditation and you suddenly feel angry because you were being triggered, that means that you were in the hyper arousal zone, or when you became restless. Or if you were meditating and an image comes up, then you freeze, then that means that you are in the hypo arousal zone. So I want you guys to be aware of this issue, just so that you are not being re-traumatized when you meditate. So before we meditate, so I guess the first month we did the breathing meditation. Last month, I'm sorry, but I put last week. Last month, I did the body scan. Tonight, I will add the sense door practice. What it is that when you meditate at the beginning, and we will do that in a bit, is to be mindful of your surrounding, and then check in with the six senses. Even when you are driving, I have been driving a lot for the past 10 years. People cut in front of me. I used to get angry, but ever since my car accident, I don't get angry anymore. I just let them please, pass me or cut in front of me. It does not bother me. So the sensual practice can help you when you're waiting in line, when you are sitting around doing nothing. So the sensual practice will help you. Anyway, that's all I have. Then let's meditate. Let's take a few deep breaths. As you breathe in, your body may tense up a little bit, because your body takes an amount of effort and energy to fill your lungs with air. But when you breathe out or exhale, notice that it takes no energy, and that's how you can relax your body. Just simply being aware of your out breath or when you exhale. And this is how you relax your body even your mind at the beginning, or even throughout the day. Take some deep breaths just so that you can relax your body. And also regulate the energy in your body. Then allow your body to settle into your posture. Start with a smile. Notice how you feel when you smile, and how that feeling gives rise to the physiological sensations in your body. And be aware that the feeling, the sensations are quickly fading away. And how you feel next depends on your mind, your body, or what you do next. Let's start with the sense door practice. Let's check in with your surrounding, meaning the space around you, the space above your head, the space underneath the chair if you are sitting on a chair. The room temperature. Let's check in with your mind. See how busy it is, or restless above. Your feeling, your attitude, your mood, your perception, your view, all can be colored by what's going on in your mind. And this is why it is important to check in with your mind. Then your sense of seeing, whether your eyes are open or closed. Your sense of hearing, knowing that you cannot turn off your hearing consciousness. It's how you react or respond to what you hear. Your sense of smell, your sense of taste. These four senses, at the moment as you are meditating, are at rest. Even your mind could be at rest too, if it is not wandering or producing thoughts. Then your sense of touch in the body, being aware of any sensation or tension or tightness throughout your body, but also be aware that they're constantly changing. This is the sense door practice. It helps you to be aware, to be vigilant when you step into a new or different environment, so you don't easily get distracted or triggered and feel overwhelmed. You can apply this practice in any environment, whether you are sitting and waiting, standing and waiting, driving, getting stuck in traffic, and what's involved in this? Patience. Once you have patience, no matter how long you have to wait, your mind does not get restless. You will not feel angry or irritated. Even as you check in with your six senses, you can smile so that you feel pleasant. When you smile, it also gives you a sense of alertness, besides feeling pleasant. You can even visualize that you are sitting in your car, getting stuck in a traffic jam. And apply this practice. Let's move on, and for the next couple minutes, let's do the body scan on your own by bringing your attention to your body. You can visualize that you were standing in front of this body of yours and notice what comes up or what calls for your attention. Be it the tension in your forehead or both sides of your temples. Your neck and shoulders, your lower back, your hips, your knees, or your feet. Whatever that you noticed, just be present with it, patiently, without reacting, questioning, or making comments. The body scan helps you to be aware of any issue with the body, any tension, or anything that is going on at the skin level or inside your body, such as your chest area or your tummy, your lower back, your hips, your buttocks. And this is how you are taking care of your physical health. Of course, when you notice your mind wanders away, patiently bring it back to the body. Your body is your concentration. You're focused. Let's move on and practice concentration by bringing your attention to your breath. And all you have to do is being aware of the sensations at your nostrils as you breathe in and out. Concentration means that you are not distracted by what's going on in your mind or your surrounding. Or whenever that your mind wanders away, bring it back to the breath. If it is hard to do, it's okay. Just be patient with yourself. You can try counting your breaths. For each in-breath and out-breath, count 1. You can go from 1 to 5, and then reverse count from 5 back to 1. This is how you ground your attention in the breath. And if it doesn't work, you can repeat a mantra or your favorite prayer. But still ground your awareness in the breath. This is how you prevent your mind from wandering. and that you can devote 100% of your mind with the breath, with the practice. This requires patience, vigilance, persistence, and mindfulness, a sense of self-awareness. As soon as you notice your mind wanders away, patiently bring it back to the breath. But when you notice a thought that is very powerful or hurtful, let it go. Stay with the breath. And notice how long you can stay with the breath, or your mind can be with the breath. Is it one breath, or two, or three? And what does that feel like? When you are fully present with the breath, without thoughts, without being distracted. Smile when you remember. It helps. And know that smile does not cost a penny. And no one can take away from your ability to smile. No one. So for the next 3 minutes, let's sit in silence and continue to practice concentration. Let's check in with your six senses again. First with your mind. Perhaps it's more subtle, clear, less reactive, less judging, less chattering. Your feeling, your perception, your attitude, your mood, your view, all can be colored by what's going on in your mind. Your sense of seeing, your sense of hearing, your sense of smell, taste, and the sensations that are going on in your body. Your qualities of mindfulness, concentration, patience, caring, kindness, and compassion for yourself. And that's it. Danny.
Thank you, Dee. So I sent over some comments from Scott and Carol, and basically they responded to your request about trauma, whether or not that would be a good topic. So they basically said yes, they really want to hear more about that. So other than that, I didn't see any questions for today's session. I would just make a comment that there are people try to remind me that I should mute my mic because they're hearing a lot of background noise. And that's because we have a very complicated arrangement with the Insight Timer and the Zoom and all that. And Insight Timer is not a very friendly platform, so it doesn't allow me to feed the audio. So I have to cheat. I actually have to use my own mic to pick up your sound. That's why I have to be super careful.
Yeah.
Because it's
Oh, I
different.
apologize. Just so you guys didn't know, my nephew, my 10-year-old nephew was in here and he is coughing. So you might
Oh,
hear some of that too. I'm sorry.
okay. No, that's okay. That's okay. I think that's all good. Maybe I wanted to do a mini interview, and now I know what should be the theme for the sequence of mini interview. It's all about trauma. It's all about real life example of how you grew up with trauma. And so I thought maybe I would start with the biggest one, at least in my mind, the biggest one, which is how you came to United States. Now, somewhere in the talk you mentioned that you're an old man, so let me kind of remind you that you're far from being an old man, okay? Someone who's born in 1963 has, I'm quite a few years older than you are. But in any case, so you, we did this once before in Chinese, the full interview. So I'm going by my memory. You came to United States when you were 19.
Yes, I was 19.
Yeah. Now you were born in 1963, which means that you were born while the Americans were still fighting in Vietnam.
Yeah.
I believe we left. The Americans left in 76,
75.
75. So you were 12 years old.
Yes.
Yeah, so so you remember some of that, I'm sure, the wartime.
Hmm.
Yeah. But then yet you stay another 7 years and left when you were 19. Most of us probably don't know that even though the Americans had left, the wars continue in Vietnam.
Yes.
And you actually left right in the middle of the war between the Vietnamese and the Chinese, right?
Correct.
And so there was a reason why your parents decided that you have to leave.
Correct.
And what was that?
Well, I turned 18 in 1981, and in Vietnam, when you are 18, automatically you will be drafted to the army for
Yeah,
training. And at the
yeah,
time, it was to fight China.
yeah,
So there's no way, there's no way in hell that even modern day that the US would want to get involved in a war with China. So my mom was hesitant, and her friend said, "You gotta let him go. Either you take a risk, and he could be better, or he could go fight China." So in the end, she decided to let me go, and we left Vietnam from the port of Saigon, and we spent there were 142 of us. We spent 7 days, 6 nights on a boat without food, without water. Well, 3 spoons of water a day. One teaspoon of water for breakfast, for lunch and dinner.
Now
And
let's make sure that our students understand, have some perspective. How big is the boat?
the bowl was like, in terms of meters, like 3 meters in terms of width, and in terms of length, I think it was like 10 meters. So translate that into feet, and I was sitting with my knees, like folded like this, and I
Yeah.
was sitting in a lower level, and the whole 7 days, that's how I was sitting.
And how many? I think you said it, but how many? Remind me again. How many people were in that tiny little thing?
142, but then a woman, she was 7 months pregnant, and someone fell on her, and then she gave birth to a child, and so there were 143. Yeah.
So basically, you had no food. There wasn't. They didn't plan on you guys having food.
No, no, not even water.
Oh, they didn't even plan on you having water.
They have a few jugs of water that for spare, and that's how they pass around
Yeah.
a bit of water like 3 times a day.
Now, and they didn't plan on how long this is going to be. They're just going to send you out to the sea, and it could be anywhere from 3 hours to 30 days, right?
Yeah, correct.
So, I mean, had you not leave Vietnam, it would have been a death sentence because they would have sent you a person of Chinese heritage into China, right?
Yeah,
So they didn't mind that you were in the front, right? Because you weren't one of them.
yeah, correct,
So
correct.
it would have been a death sentence had you stayed, but for all practical purpose, you're also this escape was practically a death sentence because you have no idea whether you're
Correct.
going to come out this alive or not. You were just rolling the dice, right?
Yeah, yeah. I was 18. I had no clue what I was doing, or what I got myself into, and I was only 110 pounds.
Now, and you were not alone.
I came with my younger brother, Dennis, who was 13 at the time.
And and um, and you were the oldest of a family of
Of
seven, right?
seven. Hmm.
Seven child, and so and there was you were the oldest and the first male child,
Hmm.
of course, and then so you took son number two or number three.
Three. He's number three.
He's
Hmm.
number three. What happened to number two?
Number two had to stay behind because he was able to help. Otherwise, I was the only person doing everything at home. So if
Hmm.
both number one and two were to go, then
Right.
my parents would be paralyzed. No one could help them.
I see. I see. And he's not at the age yet where they would
Hmm.
draft him into the military. Okay, so
Correct. He was
so
15.
so you were thinking that maybe it was just a dozen of you or so, but it turns out that there's 142, but eventually become 143. You're
Yeah.
now on this boat about, I mean, I think my house would fit three of them here.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Easy, easy, right? Okay, so this is a
Right.
tiny little thing. You really have no room to maneuver. You were gonna like this is like a can of sardine.
Correct. Oh,
And
yeah.
you
We
were
were
at the
small.
lower deck, so you don't even get to see the sun or nothing.
No, no.
And
We, I
and there were
got
no
pee,
water, no food.
I got pee on. Yeah, I got head lice. After 7 days. So it took me 2 weeks to get rid of them.
Now, okay, so this is the part I didn't get when I interviewed you last time. You get pee on. Okay, so that's a trauma, but it's nothing compared to what you have to survive, what
Oh,
you
yeah.
have to do to survive. Okay, so at what point did you guys even run out of water? So you had at the best, you had 3 tablespoons of water a day.
1 teaspoon. Yeah.
One teaspoon. No.
Hmm.
1 teaspoon of water?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
On Thursday, on that Thursday, luckily we had some rain, so we were like, getting plastic, laying
Uh-huh.
out to get some water from heaven.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so that helped.
Okay. But
Yeah.
eventually that ran out.
Yeah, that ran out, and then by I think the seventh day, I think it was Saturday because
Yeah.
I believe we left on the Sunday. It was
Hmm.
around September. Because we arrived in Malaysia on October 1st.
Yeah. Now, Carol asked, where was the boat headed? Just away from Vietnam.
Just away from Vietnam, so we were
Yeah.
just blindly going to somewhere.
Going to
And
somewhere. Hopefully, you get
yeah,
picked up by someone.
yeah, we end up getting near the water of Malaysia. So
Mhm.
and we were rescued on the seventh day.
Well, before you got rescued,
Mhm.
I want to talk about the time before you got rescued, but after you ran out of water. What happened then? How do people? They still have two sources of water. One was from the sea.
Yeah,
You tried that, right?
yeah. And then we had to drink our urine,
People had to drink their own urine.
Yeah, yeah. Because I tried the salt water and it was so bitter that I could not even do it. I put it on my tongue a little bit and so then I saw two twin brothers who were fighting each other to drink urine. And like I asked them for the plastic bag, and I turned around, I pee, and I tried it, and it was it
And
was
why
nasty.
would they fight for urine? Don't they have their own?
No, well, that's what they. I don't know, but it was even between twin brothers. They were fighting each other to drink that, and they did. It was sad,
Were
but
they fighting for the urine or were they fighting for the container?
for the
Because you
urine,
guys have no container
for
even.
the urine, no, they were fighting over a bag of urine.
Ah, two
Yeah,
brothers, twin brothers.
twin brothers. Yeah, they were teenagers, they were probably, I think, 15 or 16. And so I don't know who finished them. And I thought it must taste good. So I asked for the plastic bag. I turned around, I pee, and I tried it. I stuck my tongue into it, and I was like, oh, no, no, I can't. And I
Do
gave it to
you do
them.
you do you sometimes wake up in the middle of night and remind yourself of what seawater tastes like or what urine tastes like? Do you do that?
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's why I'm grateful. I have a bottle of water right here.
Yeah, because I noticed that you're very picky about what you drink. You drink mineral water and you
Yeah,
drink coconut water, right?
correct. Yeah,
And
for
no
the
more urine.
electrolytes. Yeah.
No, no, that's trauma.
Oh, yeah, that was.
But now, your younger brother, he wasn't as healthy as you were, right?
No, he wasn't. He was actually a bit. He had fever and he was crying and screaming. And he wanted to drink what is that, sugar can? And I had to
Yeah,
say no. He said get somebody to buy them. And I
yeah,
kind of like slapped him one time. I still regret it today. Yeah, because he was out of it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You didn't understand why. What's the problem? Why don't you
yeah,
just go down the street and buy some? Yeah,
correct. Yeah,
he was too young. He was too
correct.
young to come back.
So yeah,
So that's 7 days and 7 nights,
6 nights,
and then
7 days, 6 nights.
7 days, 6 nights, and then you. What? How did it feel when you see land? When you figured out that you're seeing land and it's not Vietnam.
I was still out of it. We were rescued. So the Malaysian Coast Guard called the UN. So the UN staff came and took us into a center on the
Oh, so the
land.
Malaysian government, they didn't want to take responsibility
No,
because
no, it
yeah,
was the UN. Yeah, because
yeah,
we
because
were
I
refugees.
see. So they take you to this special island that's
Yeah. And
being
and yeah,
set
and
up.
I was okay, but it was so they gave us instant noodles. Oh my gosh, but no chopsticks. So I had to go to the trees around and broke some branches, right, tiny branches, use them as chopsticks. But the noodles taste so good. Yeah. And just so people know out there, it took me 2 weeks to recover my health, meaning that I ate 6 times a week, 6 times a day, like a big bowl of rice with just a bit of oil and a bit of soy sauce. I and nothing else, no protein, nothing, just the rice, six
Okay.
times a day. And it took me 2 weeks, and then my body was back to normal, and I was able to eat 3 meals a day back then.
Wow.
Yeah.
No one needs to go through that.
No, but I'm glad I survived, anyway, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. So that's all I wanted to do today. It's kind of it's not the beginning, it's not the end. It's just right in the middle. It's actually where you, because everybody knows that you're from Vietnam. So the natural question would comes, like, what airline did you take? How was the food? Whether or not you complain about the lack of leg room.
No, no, yeah, yeah.
Okay, unless there's any questions, I think we just call it a day. And then maybe just quickly, since there's so much interest in trauma and how to overcome trauma with mindfulness and also with loving kindness meditation, maybe you could quickly just give us a preview of what the next session would be, which I believe would be in October 4th.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
basically, what we have to be mindful of is being triggered, right? We can be triggered, but we don't have to feel overwhelmed. Let's say when someone was abused by the parents who was screaming at the kid, so when you hear another person screaming, you can get triggered, you get startled, but you don't have to be paralyzed, which means in the hypoarousal zone, or you don't have to get angry, which means that you are in the hyperarousal zone. You can still stay in this window. So, or when you are meditating, an image comes up and you get triggered, you can come back to the breath and let go of that image. However, because of the way that we were traumatized, we don't feel safe. And it's hard for people who were traumatized to be in the present moment. And that's the most difficult issue that face meditators or even every human being. So I
Mhm.
will address some of that and share some of the views by expert, by Dr. Gabor Mate, by Dr. Bezo van der Kolk, by Dr. Nadine Burke Harris,
Okay, okay.
to address that. And then with the practice of the Brahma Vihara, which are loving kindness, compassion, appreciative, sympathetic joy, and equanimity, and
Mhm.
forgiveness as well. To
Mhm.
so that may take two lectures
Okay,
as well.
okay.
So yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's great. I remember we talk about your experience inside the prison and how many of the incarcerated individuals their journey of actually started when they were a child. There's typically a lot of violence in
correct.
the family, either by the father or by the stepfather or whatever. And so that ties into our next mini interview where I would talk about how you grew up, that you actually grew up in a very violent environment as well, your relationship with your father. And
Yeah.
then perhaps after that, maybe then we'll talk about how we use the four immeasurables, loving kindness, compassion, empathy, and equanimity to overcome your own difficulty with your father.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect, perfect. Thank you so much. So everyone, if you have made any donation today, just let you know that it would be matched one to one, and I will send all that to Venerable De Hong. All 100% of it will go towards supporting his work inside the prison. Okay, whether it is to buy books, buy stamps, buy snacks or whatever. Okay, 100%. Well, actually 200%. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys in a month.
Thank you,
So let
everyone.
me let me just whoops whoops. Let me figure out how to turn off the outside first.